Well, Mark from the Albany Business Centre with a live from the pod, and today we've got Anastasia back
Yes!
by popular demand.
I can't believe it's been a year already.
I can't either. So much has been going on, so much has happened. And now we're back doing another live
Yep.
to discuss all the interesting stuff.
Yeah, and another small business expo coming up on the weekend. Can't wait to see everyone.
Yeah, you'll be here. It's going to be great. So, Anastasia, last time you were here, we put everything up on YouTube for all the amazing people to learn some things about insurance. They're still getting views.
I can't believe that.
I know you're famous.
Kind of scary, but exciting. I'm happy about it.
It's not this face, believe me. This one's up there too much. Okay. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, which some people have been asking as well, but I would like, if possible, can you give us an idea about what an insurance broker does and maybe some of the benefits of using one instead of going it alone?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest value add that I see in my role is actually helping our clients to understand what their risks are and what their exposures are and where insurance fits into that and how that actually protects you and your assets. So we do see quotes from a range of different insurers. Hopefully that's getting you a good price, but it's also negotiating appropriate cover.
Yeah.
We should be experts in insurance contracts. So
well, that's why you're here.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an expert in insurance.
Yeah, that's it. But you should be able to ask questions of us and we can give you that feedback and make you feel comfortable in your decisions. It should be educating you and empowering you. It's not just the invoice at the end of the day. That's such a small part of what we do. And then we're your advocate as well. So when things are going wrong for claims, that's when we step up and we show our value.
Yeah, and I think I spoke about this last time, and if I didn't, you guys, you insure us, which is amazing, but hit a kangaroo, and all I did was call, and you guys sorted it all. I didn't have to worry about the paperwork, none of that stuff, which drives you up the wall. I just went, there you go, help.
Yeah, and look, sometimes there will still have to be paperwork, but we avoid that if at all possible.
Yeah.
And we're the ones that will sit on hold for 2 hours trying to get hold of your insurer. That's what you pay us to do.
Well, and that's right. So that really does ask the next question of, is there a massive cost difference normally, like just let's say an average person, a massive difference between going direct and all these online things and using the insurance broker like yourself?
Yeah.
Because obviously you've got costs and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and it might be more expensive using a broker, but it also might not be.
Yeah.
It just depends on the insurers that we approach versus the insurers that are in the direct market. We do have fees as well, but it's free to get a quote.
Yeah.
So it doesn't hurt to find out.
And it's time. You said yourself, it could be 2 hours that you're sitting on hold if something's going wrong or you need to know some information, but you do all of that. So how much is your time actually worth?
Yeah, exactly. Use our time up instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll use your time.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. While we're going live, if anybody's got any questions, shoot them in the comments as normal and we'll ask as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully there'll be plenty just to annoy you, but I've got a heap of stuff.
Yeah.
We did promise. Yeah, go on.
I do have to interrupt just before we get too much further into this.
Yeah.
So before we get in, I do need to let our listeners know any information or advice provided in the podcast today is general in nature and hasn't taken into account your personal circumstances. Before you make any decisions about insurance, you should read the PDS and TMD if it's available and consider speaking with an insurance broker about your specific needs. So for reference, I'm a qualified practicing insurance broker. I work for South Coast Insurance Brokers, and that's with Australian Financial Services licence number 245460.
Party broadcast brought to you by.
Yeah, have to do it.
That's the legal stuff. Okay, legal stuff out of the way, right? Okay, we can breathe now?
Yeah.
Okay, let's have some fun. We've promised that we would talk about some new workers' comp stuff, and there's some spicy workers' comp changes which affects contractors, fines, family members, privacy changes. Is that right?
Yeah. So there are a huge number of changes that came in from the 1st of July this year. But some of the ones that we're finding the most obvious impact straight away are to do with contractors and when you might be responsible to insure them.
Yeah.
So it used to be about whether the contractor helped you deliver your service to your customers. It's now about whether that contractor is actually genuinely carrying on their own business or whether they realistically are just one of your workers.
This happens a lot, okay? So, and you're absolute. I want to get back to the insurance side, obviously, but I see it a lot where there are companies out there who employ people, but make sure that they set up their own business and have their own ABN and all that sort of stuff, kind of avoiding and skirting around the issue of workers' comp and the insurances and all that stuff. So these rule changes have come into place to kind of encompass those.
Yeah, and there's always been penalties for avoidance arrangements. Like, you're not meant to force your workforce to become contractors. But if someone has already set up a business and they come to you that way, if they only work for you doing that activity, then they're still going to be your worker. You're still going to be responsible to have workers' comp insurance for them.
Yeah.
But if you're a builder and you have an electrician that comes onto some of your jobs, but they also work for 20 other builders in town, they're not your worker. You're not responsible for their workers' comp.
Yeah, it's that fine line, isn't it, between how much work you're doing for one person, how much,
Yeah,
else.
and WorkCover WA have changed the rules on that. So if in doubt, like, you can jump on their website and they've got a chat function. So ask them the questions, or ask us, or your own broker.
Okay, so what other insurance stuff do we need to worry about with contractors? So it's just, that's making sure that you've got your own insurance. If you're employing somebody, they've got to have it, or could.
Yeah, well,
so who would you talk to? Talk to you guys, or talk to WorkCover, or?
You can talk to WorkCover about whether you need a policy and whether you need to declare payments to contractors under your policy. But you can't get a quote from WorkCover.
Yep.
So you would come to us for the quote, or to another insurer directly.
Okay, but really, if you're in two minds about it, go to WorkCover.
Yeah.
Work out what I'm doing, and then if I've got to get the insurance, then come to you guys. Yeah, tax and super and all of that sort of stuff. Then talk to your accountants and all the good stuff, the usual stuff. Fines, family members, all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, so there have always been fines if you didn't have a workers' compensation policy and you're meant to. It is one of the only compulsory insurance policies in Australia. But if you have employees and you don't have a workers' comp policy, the fine is $10,000 per worker, and there's premium reimbursement orders. So you'll have to repay the premium that you should have paid for the last 5 years.
Wow.
So you can't get away from it.
Okay, good.
And WorkCover WA have been working with the ATO to identify employers that don't have policies.
Excellent. And every worker deserves to go home at the end of the day and be safe at work, so this just covers that.
Exactly.
Yeah, brilliant.
So family members, as you sort of raised, this hasn't changed, but I think it's a timely reminder for it. If someone is a sole trader and their partner helps them out, maybe doing the office work at home, if you're paying them as an employee, you are still responsible to have workers' comp insurance for them.
Yeah, which you hope that people are getting paid in that situation. But I know many, many people who are working for themselves and their partners at home with the kids or just helping out in the business, and it's just kind of like, well, here's money which is here from the business, let's put it there. They need to sort that out. Let's structure it properly.
If you do pay your partner on the books, you've got to have a workers' comp policy for them.
Yeah, so there you go. Get your partner looked after properly, because if there's no workers' comp for them, then you're kind of stuffed as well, and you have to replace what they do as well. Privacy changes?
Yeah, so there has been some changes with the claims process as well. So us as a broker, there's an extra form that we'll have to get a worker to sign if they're injured, so that we can be involved in the claim and know some of the personal information. But the other thing that I think is really interesting, if you're looking at employing new staff and doing pre-employment screenings, is you can no longer ask if someone has had a workers' comp claim in the past.
Really?
You can still ask about injuries that are relevant to the job, but you can't distinguish whether they did that in their own personal time or whether it happened at work and was a workers' comp claim.
Wow, that makes things a little bit tricky for an employer now because
You can
obviously,
still ask about relevant medical conditions.
Yeah, I
So
guess,
you can
yeah.
still ask if they've had an injury that's going to impact their ability to do the job that you need them to do. You just can't ask that question of, did this happen at your last job?
Keep an eye out. See, I've learned stuff already this morning. This is brilliant. All right, I'm going to get into some basic questions.
Yes.
These are questions which have been asked to me and to Jeremy and to Tracy, and so we're going to ask you.
Let's go.
All right, ready? Some quick ones for you. What do I need public liability insurance for in my small business?
Yeah, so public liability insurance is all about if you injure one of your customers or someone else, like a member of public, a supplier, or if you cause damage to someone else's property.
Yep.
So if you have a retail shop, this might be if someone trips over something in the store. If you go visiting a supplier's workshop, it might be if you knock something over and break it.
Yeah.
And it's your products as well. So if you create children's toys and someone chokes on them, the public liability insurance is what pays that claim.
So that is the most important insurance that you should have as any business.
Yeah, because you just don't know what could go wrong and what the cost and impact of that would be.
Yeah.
It's hard to quantify. That's why the limits are things like $10 million and $20 million.
You just don't know what. Yeah. And we ask for it as soon as somebody uses this room or the training room, or we've got the expo and the first store. We ask for copies of public liability insurance, and that's not just to cover us, but that's to cover the person as well. We want everybody to be covered, because there's nothing worse, right?
Yeah, and just remember though that public liability insurance won't cover you being injured or your own property being damaged.
Mm-hmm.
This is all about third parties, like other people.
Other people.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Now you know. And knowledge is power. What is indemnity insurance, and how does it protect my business?
Do we mean professional indemnity?
Yeah,
insurance?
let's go with professional indemnity.
Yeah.
Let's go with our. I'm just asked the questions. I just pose them.
Yeah, assuming that's what they're asking then. So professional indemnity insurance is a type of insurance that you would need if you are qualified in a particular professional service. So your doctors, your lawyers, your accountants, your insurance brokers.
Oh, us.
Yeah. So it's really about if there's any errors and omissions in the advice and the professional work that we do for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if I give the wrong advice to a client and they have a claim that isn't covered, our professional indemnity insurance is what would respond to that.
Yeah. And have you ever, or do you find a lot of claims against your indemnity insurance, professional indemnity? Not yours necessarily, but just in general. Do you ever see many?
The potential's there.
Yeah.
I suppose we've probably been quite fortunate with our clients that we haven't seen many claims. But absolutely it can happen. Like look at the construction industry and engineers and building consultants and all the cladding issues that happened over the last decade.
Yeah.
That's their professional indemnity insurance that's paying to replace cladding on skyrise buildings.
It could be anything, couldn't it? I mean, really, we find it as well, giving business advice here, that if we give the wrong one and somebody goes with exactly that information and it fails, we're liable.
Yeah,
and it's tough.
And when people are going through tough times, it's not maybe that you want someone else to take the blame for that, but if you can shift the financial burden to someone else, you're probably going to try.
Yeah, but don't go off some people. Remember, everybody's a small business. Mostly. Okay. What types of insurance should I have if I'm signing a commercial lease? What should the landlord cover?
Okay.
That was a good question.
You're going to have to read your lease agreement. There's some pretty common things. It would be common for the tenant to have to insure the glass.
Yeah, absolutely.
They will probably have to insure any fixtures or fittings, so the fit out that they've installed.
So their own stuff they've put in, yeah.
Yeah. They could also have to insure the air conditioning units. That's not uncommon. And you'll have to have your own public liability insurance.
Of course.
Sometimes it could be in the lease agreement that you have to insure the entire building. It's not as common, but we definitely see it from time to time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the owner shifting responsibility, right?
Yeah, but even on the flip side of that, maybe you don't have to insure the building, but you might have the cost of the landlord's insurance passed on to you.
Yeah.
So whether you arrange the policy or the landlord does, you might still be paying the bill for that insurance.
Yeah, gotcha. So essentially, everything that's inside and belongs to you, you should be insuring.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
structure, most of the time, or 99% of the time, it's got to be covered by the landlord or
Probably.
the owner.
Yeah.
Cool, gotcha. Now, leading on to that, if I rented my space, my commercial space, and it floods during the rains, because we had some serious rains, not here, we didn't get flooded here, don't panic, but I do know some people it's happened to. Who's responsible for the damages of flooding coming in from rain, for example? Because that would be a structural issue, right? So is it the landlord or is it you being covered for your stuff?
Okay. I'm going to put a pin in the flood thing and come back to that.
Oh yeah, because floods and okay.
Yeah,
So rain damage. Let's just say rain
Yeah.
damage coming through the roof.
Yeah, so if it's just that heavy rains, sort of stormwater damage, it's going to depend on how that's worded in the lease agreement again, and it might be both policies. There could be structural damage to the roof and to the gyprock walls that might fall on the landlord's building insurance, and then you might also have to make a claim if you were responsible for the carpets and anything that you've installed that's also had water damage.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, coming back to flood is a defined term in insurance, so it has a really specific meaning. And it's when we say flood in insurance, it's only talking about the escape of water, like rising or escaping from a body of water. So your canals, dams, rivers, lakes. So flood is water rising or escaping from an existing body of water nearby. Whereas if it's just rainfall and storm damage, that will just be covered. So it's important to know for business insurance that flood is normally excluded unless you have opted into that cover and paid extra premium for it.
Okay.
So if you're nearby to a river or a lake,
Denmark River.
Yeah,
there you go.
Then it's important to check that you've paid for flood insurance cover.
Yeah, King River.
Yeah.
It starts to get a little bit high, although we've been lucky this year. All right, if I'm transporting business items, so in your car or whatever, because most people use their normal car for business as well. But that's a whole other thing. And if these things get damaged in an accident, say, or you brake quickly and something falls and it smashes, does my vehicle insurance cover it, or do I need a different policy?
Yeah, so a vehicle insurance policy probably won't cover any business stock or equipment that you've got in your car.
Okay.
You can buy transit insurance, is specifically for that. If it's your own stock or equipment in your own car, it would be cargo insurance specifically. But if your job is actually to deliver or carry goods for other people, then it would be carrier's goodwill or carrier's protection cover.
Okay. Yeah, so that covers movers and couriers and that sort of stuff. I'm thinking, somebody who's at a market.
Yeah.
And they're going down to the market, but so it's in their own car. So you'd need cargo insurance, or absolutely. And can that just be added to your normal car insurance, or do you need a separate policy?
Possibly. Yeah. Some commercial motor insurers might have a benefit that you can add some additional cover for, often for tradies, like the tools of trade.
Yeah.
For other businesses, it's probably not as easy, and I would think a separate transit cargo insurance policy would be required.
Okay.
Sometimes that's a section on a business package, sometimes that's a totally separate policy.
Yeah, and I guess the cost comes down to how much you need to cover and where you're driving and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and what's the premium and the excess going to be, and
is it
what makes commercial sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. There you go. We're flying through these this morning. How do you know if I have enough insurance coverage in my business?
I think this is such a personal question.
Yeah, it is, because I'm asking for us. No, I'm not. It actually had been asked by somebody else as well. How do I know I'm covering myself enough?
Yeah. I guess you need to take a critical look at what do you have, like what assets have you got, what's the value of those things, and what do you have sitting in your bank account to replace them if they're damaged? Can you afford to go out and buy them again so that you can continue working?
Yeah.
If you can't easily replace them, then you probably need to insure them.
Yeah.
And then that's thinking about your own like stock and equipment where you kind of know the dollar value, but when we talk about your public liability and your professional indemnity insurance, those are the ones that you probably really do need the insurance for because you don't know what the cost could possibly be.
Yeah, so it's easy if it's stock because that's the value of the stock,
Yeah,
right? So,
you know whether that's $5,000, $10,000, $100,000.
Absolutely.
You can put a dollar value on that, and you know how badly that's going to impact you if you lost it all. But your liability insurance it could be anything.
Yes, absolutely. And that relates as well to building coverage and all sorts of things. With the cost of everything going up, to replace, so let's say we had a massive fire here and things were destroyed, I mean, cost to rebuild today is a lot higher than it was 3 years ago. Are we covered enough? Who knows? So,
and for that you just have to keep checking sums insured every year, and it's difficult, but asking around, speak to valuers, speak to builders, check if you're still kind of on the right target, and there's calculators that we can provide as well to kind of estimate those costs.
Yeah, I know that it used to be, and this was only 2-3 years ago, you could work out about $1,500 a square metre to rebuild something, but now it's about 2.5. So if you're looking to rebuild, you might be underinsured. Just make sure, check your own coverage. Okay, I've done that one. Cyber insurance, okay, because it's Cyber Awareness Month again. Apparently, it seems to be every month, but it's a big deal. So, what is cyber insurance first of all, and why is it important for small businesses? So, what sort of things are covered?
Okay, so cyber insurance is really anything to do with your IT infrastructure or your programs, and any risks associated with working and living on the internet.
Yep.
It will cover first-party losses, so that's things that directly impact you, whether that's having your data hacked and stolen or making payments that have gone somewhere else and you lose money. And it also covers the liability side of things to your customers. So if you have your systems hacked and you've lost personal information on your customers, and you might have to remediate that to them and notify them as well. So it covers both you and your liability to others.
It doesn't necessarily cover your IT support and all that sort of stuff, but it can cover your remediation afterwards, after an event's happened.
And some IT costs certainly would be covered. So if you log into work one morning and you have ransomware pop up on your screen, you would call your cyber insurer, and they will have 24-hour response teams and forensic investigators that will immediately jump on, have a look at your systems, work out what data's been lost, what's been encrypted, and sort of go from there. And those costs will be covered.
Yeah. So, and also, because we've had the conversation about our cyber insurance, we found out that we didn't have enough cover for what we do, and that's fine. Sometimes your cyber insurance is included in your business insurance, but not enough, or little bits are covered, bits aren't.
There might be an option to add some really basic and limited cyber cover to business or professional insurance types of policies, but it's usually quite limited. It'll do the liability to others, maybe ransomware, but it's not going to go as far as like social engineering. If you've been tricked into paying on an invoice that was tampered with, that's probably not going to be covered unless you bought a standalone cyber insurance policy.
And that's happening more and more as well at the moment, because and we're hearing it, especially in the Great Southern, there are businesses out there who are sending out an invoice, PDF, that's fine, thinking that's all secure, they're getting intercepted, bank numbers are being changed, it's being forwarded on to the person, and then the people are just paying the wrong bank account, essentially. So this is where your cyber insurance really comes into its own.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so hard to prevent that. I mean, something that we personally do is if we get given bank details, we'll call the phone number that we already know and we'll double check those. And we do that before we pay any refunds to clients, or if we set up payments to new suppliers, that's something that we do. And to take out a cyber insurance policy, you probably have to do that as well.
Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you. I think that covers up a lot of mysteries that are around cyber insurance as well. So thank you. 3 questions left for you.
Okay.
You're making it so far. You're doing really well again.
Thanks.
Are there specific insurance requirements for home-based businesses compared to those with physical storefronts?
Okay. I would say that from the business insurance side of things, whether you work from home or work from a store in town, the business insurance policy is probably the same.
Mm-hmm.
I'd actually be more concerned about your home insurance policy.
Right.
Because running a business from your home might jeopardize your home insurance policy. It could go so far as if it's seen as fraudulent non-disclosure that you didn't tell your home insurer about the business, they could void the whole policy.
Okay.
No one wants to see that happen.
No. I mean, if you lose your family home in an accident and they find out you've been working from home and void it, you're like, oh.
That would be devastating.
Yeah.
So if you do run a business from home, please tell your home insurer. If it's a home office, it'll likely be no problem. But anything more than that, they'll ask questions, and you might be told, no, that's outside of our appetite.
Yeah. Okay.
Beyond just avoiding the whole policy, there probably will also be exclusions. So it might be that the home insurer won't pay a claim if the claim started because of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got a workshop in your backyard and you do woodworking and a fire starts and you lose your home as well, if that related to a business activity, it could be excluded.
Yeah.
There's also going to be limits as well. So if you have stock that you keep at home, that might not be insured.
It's tough, isn't it, being a home business and starting up?
Yeah, definitely. That would be one to read the policy wording, check the exclusions, check the sublimits, and check what you answered when you actually set the policy up, and make sure your insurer knows about it.
Yeah. So there you go. Make sure you've got the right insurance for at home for your business, because you could void your home insurance. Right? That's pretty scary for people.
Yeah, and a couple of years ago, I think it really came to front where there was a home insurance policy that was cancelled by the insurer because they sold eggs from just like a little courtesy thing at their driveway.
Oh my God.
And that was considered enough for that insurer that it was a business activity. So if there's any cash changing hands, just let the insurer know up front.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if they'd just let them know about the eggs, and it would have been fine. But that's crazy.
Like that was an extreme case of it. Yeah. But insurers are mental sometimes. So let them know. If there's any question about, would this be a business activity? Do I need to tell them? Just tell them. Just tell them, please.
And it might not necessarily increase your premium.
No,
like in a case like that, I'm selling eggs. Yeah, all right, whatever. We'll just note it.
But for some insurers, it will be the difference about whether they will accept you as a customer or not. Okay. And it's better to know that before you set up a policy than when you have a claim that they don't want to pay.
You should really talk to a broker, shouldn't you, rather than doing it yourself?
That's an option available.
Just saying. Okay, how often should I review and update my business insurance policies?
Okay. So insurance policies renew annually. You only pay for a year at a time, and the contract, it is a contract, is only valid for each year at a time. So you should check the details every year when it comes up for renewal, and make sure that you've disclosed everything that you need to, and your answers to the questions are still correct, and that sums insured are still appropriate. But if there's any significant changes in your business, you should be updating it when that happens. So that could be moving premises, it could be hiring your first employee, making significant purchases like big machinery, anything new, big, exciting. You probably need to look at your insurance and make sure it's keeping track with your business.
Yeah, so everything matches nicely, because that means your premium is up or down, but also means your cover's correct. And that's the
Yeah, that's
important
it.
thing.
And you know, if you have the funds and businesses going well to buy new equipment and to employ new staff, hopefully there's the funds there to pay for a little bit of extra premium as well.
Well, there should be, right? Because you get more coverage for things. So yeah, definitely. You wouldn't expect to do work for nothing. So
No,
come on.
and if you are financing new purchases as well, then you definitely need to look at insurance, because that would normally be a requirement for a bank or a lender.
Yeah, of course. Last question for the and, and if anybody had one, then they can throw one out. What should small business look for when choosing an insurance broker or a provider?
Okay.
Oh, or a provider. There's the kicker.
I mean, if we're looking at providers as well, I think trust, like building some relationship, making sure that the broker is taking the time to get to know you and your business and what the day-to-day looks like, so that they actually understand what you're doing and what exposures you have. Making sure that they're responsive. If you've got questions, you don't want them to be ignoring you for a couple of weeks. If you've got changes to make to your policy, you want to know that that's happening straight away. So just genuinely, how do they seem when you approach them for the quote? Are they asking questions? Are they building that relationship with you? Are they taking the time? And I think that connection is really important. Getting to know our clients. So absolutely that.
Are they from where you are? Like that, to me, that just makes perfect sense. So you guys, you're in town here. There's other people as well who are in town, but they're from the region. You know what goes on around here. You know local businesses, so you know the landscape. Rather than just some voice at the end of a phone. Yeah,
and that means we could come and visit your business. Sometimes walking through a workshop is the best way to understand what machinery they've got, what's a hazard, like what else do they need, and getting to know the clients. But also then if there's a claim and something goes wrong, we know local trades and businesses and suppliers that we can work with to get things happening for you. That being said, sometimes people work in quite niche industries that do need specialist insurance products, and we just don't always have access to that. Sometimes you can't get away from it, but you can always try local first. Absolutely. We should always be buying local and look at supporting local first. Always. Fantastic. Thanks, Anastasia. Again, a wealth of knowledge. I just wish I could take your head out sometimes and just... that just sounds a little bit creepy. Just take all that knowledge out of your head and just get it out more to people, because it's just a wealth of information. Thank you so much. No, you're very welcome. I'll be here on Saturday if people have any follow-up questions, but I take it really seriously to educate and empower my clients so that they feel really comfortable and informed and sure in their decisions. I don't want to make your insurance decisions for you and have you unsure about what's going on. I think it's really important that people feel that empowered. And that's what I like about you. That's what I've always liked about South Coast Insurance Brokers as well, is that everybody I've spoken to is of that same mindset as well. It's not about you, it's about your clients. So thank you for that. Thanks for being an amazing service in the region as well. As we said, Anastasia is going to be here Saturday at the Avenue Business Centre for the WA Small Business Day Expo. Hit her up with some questions. If you've got anything, you can watch all this back again. We're going to put it on YouTube, obviously, as normal. But if you want to just ask the questions direct, you'll get the same answers, or you might have something curly and specific. So, thanks again. No, thank you so much. Enjoy and have a great day. Hope that helps. Bye. See ya.